This is basically a weekly wrap up. I'm only going to talk about one book, though, because I'm holding some others back that I want to talk about in a different way. So, since it's a wrap up, I'll take a moment here before I start talking about Conan, to say that I have tried and tried and tried to make a thumbnail while smiling, and they never look good. I know my thumbnails, no one's complained, but because not that many people watch anyway, but I know my thumbnails lately, my face looks so grim, but I just cannot make myself smile and not look ridiculous. The other thing is really frustrating to me is I cannot remember to look in the lens of the camera when I think. Uh, I'm kind of the Mark Norman of BookTube. I cannot make eye contact when I'm trying to form a thought. My eyes go up like this. Um, but it's very distracting. I know. So my preference would be that people not watch these videos, but they just listen to them, look away the way I'm looking away. Anyway, the bloody no, that's not the name of it. The Conquering Sword of Conan. Robert Howard, the third of three volumes of the Del Rey Complete Robert Howard collection. I finished it this month. I'm still reading. I'm still doing my Howard project. Next month in May, I will read the collected horror stories. But this is the last of Conan, and it's a bit bittersweet. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed reading them in this format. This was the first time I'd ever read the Howard stories as they were written, in the order they were written. I've read just over the years, I've dipped into many others. My first reading would have been back in high school when I read all the Elsbreg de Camp travesties. This is my first time reading each and every story in the order they're written, and I cannot thank Del Rey enough for putting them in this order because I believe there might have been some pushback because there's always been an effort to chronologize Conan. Uh, Elsbert de Camp did it. There's in this final book there is a there is the some of the stuff, some of the extra material in this book is this letter to our. Oh, that's not going to work. Art Schuler Miller about a chronology that they put together and sent to Howard. And Howard was complimentary about it. There was always been this kind of desire to make a biography of Conan, and one of my big bones with the Sprague de Camp. Well, I have many, and Lynn Carter version of the tales is they tried to make it into almost a fairy tale. Even in the Conan, even in the stories that Howard wrote about Conan's earliest career, well, the first published story actually was about King Conan, so we always know that Conan was going to be a king, but he had a specific reason for doing it the way he did, the way Howard wrote the stories and published them. There is in the introduction to this book, The Conquering Sword of Conan, there is a introduction by Patrice Louinet, I think is how you say it. That's my best guess from my middle school French. I gotta find the. Oh my goodness, I actually marked stuff here. Okay, so he quotes in this introduction. This guy Patrice says about this Del Rey collection. It is also the first time the stories are published, not arranged according to character's biography, but in the order but in the order Howard wrote them, as seems to have been his intention. That's why they skip around so much. And this is a quote from Howard himself. That's why they skip around so much without following a regular order. The average adventurer telling tales of a wild life at random seldom follows any ordered plan, but narrates episodes widely separated by space and years as they occur to him. So, as best as we can know, Howard wanted them preserved in this form, not as a strict career. That's why there's gaps in the stories. I mean, that's one of the reasons. He had stopped writing Conan stories by the time he died, by the time he took his life, maybe a year or so before. He often got sick of series. You know, he dropped the Cole series. He dropped Solomon Kane. He kept on with other series. He was, part of it was his difficulties getting paid from Weird Tales, who owed him a lot of money when he passed away. Farnsworth was very slow in paying, and so he was moving towards other kinds of writing. This story contains two or three of the best stories. Is it two or three? Let me go to the content page here. I just am so pleased that I get to read them in this order. Two of the best stories, Beyond the Black River, that's probably like a top five. The Black Stranger, also very, very good. Red Nails is kind of a quintessential story. If you want an introduction to Conan, and in the middle of his career, and it has Valeria in it, which is one of his great love interests, who might have been based on the woman he was dating, who wrote the memoir One Who Walked Alone, which was made into the movie about Robert Howard called the the Whole Wide World, I think. Um, and wanted to, and he was moving into a different kind of writing. It seemed here. Here's an example of what this is what he wrote to P. Schuler Miller about the rest of Conan's life after the what would have been the last story was the Hour of the Dragon, the last chronological story where Conan decides to take a wife, take a queen, and produce an heir, which is as far as Howard wanted to take it, wanted to leave it there. As for Conan's eventual fate, frankly, I can't predict it. In writing these yarns, I've always felt less as creating them than as if I were simply chronicling his adventures as he told them to me. That's why I skip around so much without following a regular order. And then there's the other sentence that comes in here. But he was generous to these fans who took the time to put on this chronology. I remember in the Glenn Carter Sprague de Camp ones that they write an early vignette where Conan seems to find a magic sword of some kind. Uh, and that story has perplexed me. Is are we supposed to believe that Conan had the same sword his entire career, which seems highly implausible? It seems it was like a sort of an attempt to turn it into epic fantasy, Sword of Destiny kind of thing, which I don't think was Howard's intent, and it's not how I see Conan. In generally, when I think about the stories, I don't know really why. Maybe some scholar could tell me why no. I'll make an exception for Roy Thomas, who did the Conan comics, but there's been so many Conan pastiches uh, that come out over the years. Like Robert Jordan wrote a bunch, Rowan Green. I mean, people have like Laird. How do you say his name? Laird Bairn. Uh, there's a lot coming out now still, and they never can get Conan's character right. They never seem like they're about the same character that Howard wrote. It's a very particular character. And maybe it has to do with something the way Howard talked about in that letter where he says this, he just felt like the stories came to him, like he was writing about a real person. And so I think the only way I've ever been able to enjoy any of the pastiches is just thinking about them as a different sword and sorcery character with the same name. Then they're okay, but it is a very unique character. There's some beautiful writing in these books, especially I mean in these stories, especially the later ones. I mean, is this the one I want? Why are you doing this to me? My e-reader. The beyond the Black River. This is the opening paragraph or the opening sentence. The stillness of the forest trail was so primeval that the treads of a soft-booted foot was a startling disturbance. At least it seemed so to the ears of the wayfarer, though he was moving along the path with the caution which must be practiced by any man who ventured beyond the Thunder River. It's a great opening. It really sets the atmosphere. I'm having a hard time reading right now for some reason. He also, in the end, there's another extract from a letter that he wrote to Lovecraft about visiting the Carlsbad Caverns. And the speculation in this afterward is that these were probably this visit to the Carlsbad Caverns, which I regret never going to when I was in the States for 62 years, and probably never will because I'm never going home. How these probably informed Red Nails, and probably the character Valerio was kind of based on his difficult relationship he was having with the woman he was dating that I mentioned before, and the other character being sort of a. So it seems like, at least in this case, he was kind of moving into more autobiographical territory. We don't know what he would have ended up doing, but is what he talks about to Lovecraft about Carlsbad Caverns, which again seems to be the direct influence to the underground in Red Nails. I cannot describe the fantastic wonders of that great cavern. You must see it yourself to appreciate it. It lies high up among the mountains, and I never saw skies so blue and clear as those that arch titanically above those winding trails up which the traveler must labor to reach the entrance of the cavern. They are a peculiarly deep hue beggaring attempts at description. The entrance of the cavern is gigantic, but it is dwarfed by the dimensions of the interior. One descends seemingly endlessly by winding ramps for some 700 feet. We enter at 30 o'clock and emerge. Well, I got cut off there, but you get the idea. The English language is too weak to describe the cavern. The pictures do not give a good idea. For one thing, they exaggerate the colors. The coloring is really subdued, somber rather than sparkling, but they do not give a proper idea of the size of the intricate patterns carved in the limestone throughout the millenniums. And he says millenniums. In the cavern, natural laws seem suspended. It is nature gone mad in a riot of fantasy. Hundreds of feet above, hundreds of feet above, arched the great stone roof, smoky in the mist that eternally rises. Huge stalactites hung from the roof in every conceivable shape, in shafts, in domes, in translucent sheets like tapestries of ice. Water dripped, building gigantic columns through the ages. Pools of water gleamed green and weird here and there. We moved through the wonderland of fantastic giants whose immemorial antiquity was appalling to contemplate. And he almost seems to be there kind of channeling Lovecraft back to him. Lovecraft's kind of famous for describing things in an ineffable way, like the I don't have the words to describe these things, kind of a negative kind of space. And the kind of at the end, the just the terrifying idea of contemplating deep time. So he really, only by the age of 30, he had really become an excellent stylist, I believe, as well as a great storyteller. And that's where it ends. I've got other books to read in the series, but this is, I just did complete reading his major work in its complete form over the last 3 months, and I really enjoyed it. And I encourage everybody to do it if you haven't already. Okay, that's it. Talk to you later.